You think you know what we're going to talk about.
But unfortunately, I fell down a damn rabbit hole and I've not gotten out yet.
Knife bros.
I literally Googled Sebastian Stan hands.
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
Well, yeah, because like usually in astrology, they would partner up air signs with fire signs.
All right, you can huggle.
Time travel stories and
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
Well, we should make it a topic. Unfortunately, I didn't take German in school. I took Spanish and I don't remember any of it.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Three Fates Decide. My name is Sam, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Liz and Mary. Say hello, ladies.
Hello.
hi.
We're going to be talking about our favorite television shows, and that includes streaming multi-episode series as well. So I'm super excited because TV is a big thing for me, especially growing up and things like that. So looking forward to this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Sounds so excited, Liz. So
I
excited.
know. It's just like it's kind of a hard, in a way, it's kind of a hard topic because
There's so many.
there's so many, especially in the last 10, 15 years, where like television content, whether you're talking about physically on your TV or streaming online, it's just like exploded in like 1,000 directions, and you're like, I don't know what to watch anymore.
It's true. It really has. I mean, the three of us all were born in the 80s and, have really watched TV expand into this monstrosity. I mean, you really think about it, a lot of like, big time Hollywood actors or whatever are now doing like limited series on streaming networks because it's become almost synonymous with movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
Mhm.
remember when Evans was talking about defending Jacob, like those promo interviews he talked about, like yeah, that's why I'm that I agreed to do this because there's so much good stuff happening. Whether you're talking about like an actual series or even like a limited slash mini series, it's really it really has gotten better, the quality of the writing. I mean, in fact, there's a pretty good case to be made that writing on TV in general um is better than what we've been seeing on movie screens in recent years.
Agreed, 100%.
Definitely.
I mean, I
Well-
think sorry. I think I think we kind of mentioned that when we did our movie episode, like episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I find that there's, as we said in that episode about, well, I think we did 2 episodes about movies, but the
yeah.
one thing that we all had agreed on was how Hollywood has become almost like redundant. They can't come up with any original creative thought anymore. TV has been able to continue. Now, granted, there are those special cases where you have TV shows that have been on for way too many years. Even one of my favorites, but I've actually stopped watching it because I'm just bored of it, and that's Grey's Anatomy. It's just been on way too long, and it's become redundant. But there's always new TV shows, and now with these streaming services, you know, it's almost like they're making movies and just splitting them up into episodes. So it's again that limited series type of thing. So I definitely think that the streaming and TV has become more better than movies. 100%.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, even with the other thing with streaming is that outside of like, HBO and Cinematics and Stars and stuff like that, which is like the premium cable stuff, it's like with streaming, it allows you to show stuff that you may not be able to get away with on regular TV otherwise. And it's not necessarily that, it has to be gratuitous violence or sex or whatever, but it could also be just the subject matter would be stuff that definitely network TV would avoid touching because, it just doesn't fit their business model. It doesn't fit their best interest to show that kind of stuff, given that as network TV, they are potentially watched by literally anybody and everybody, you know, in the US versus like I was saying, like HBO or Netflix or Hulu or whatever, where you choose yourself to go looking for this stuff and to actually watch it. So,
Yeah, there's definitely more freedom.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna jump in with a question. What is your favorite genre of TV?
Oh, that's a tough
Started
one.
off difficult, so
Yeah, you did. You jumped right into the heart to the big one. Oh my God. I don't really necessarily I have favorite genres, not just one genre. That's the problem.
okay, you can say multiple. I'll allow it.
Sci-fi. I love I'm like that little sci-fi geeky techie. I geek out at that shit. um I like historical period pieces. I have a thing for cop dramas. I like that type of shit. I know I'm cussing a little too much. I'm sorry.
That's
Forgive
all right.
me.
We already
I like
rated. I already put like a E thing rating on our show to begin with. So if we occasionally,
but I
if
try
we
not to
can,
do it.
I mean, granted we don't want to make it like a habit of like doing that like every other sentence, but if you throw out a fuck or a shit every once in a while, it's fine.
Yeah.
I already
I
covered
Go
try.
that.
for it, Mary.
I try. I try not to say it too often. But and fantasy is another one I really like some fantasy dramas and fantasy pieces. How about you, Liz?
It's kind of evolved over time, just like my taste in books, like from our book episode, kind of changed over time. But I think in recent years, I've been gearing towards either historical fiction stuff or romantic dramas. I kind of realized are kind of like what I tend to watch more often than not. And if there's a particularly good fantasy or sci-fi series that pops up, then maybe I'll watch that. But those are the ones I tend to gravitate more towards.
Yeah, I like to go for like the historical fiction stuff. Comedies, definitely like sitcom type comedies, especially like growing up and stuff like that. And I can still appreciate that kind of stuff. And I watch a lot of like the old ones. And then, some dramas here and there. I guess it just kind of depends, but yeah, I don't like a lot of like reality TV. The only reality TV that I enjoy is like competitive. So like Dancing with the Stars or Big Brother and stuff like that. But I can't stand reality TV. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, same here.
same.
I can
I
barely stand it too.
yeah, I used to watch like on when MTV before they became the weird I don't know what they are now. When they had like Road Rules and what was the other one?
Yes, Real World.
Real World. Yes, Road Rules and Real World. Those were the only two reality shows I actually enjoyed watching, even though I knew they were completely fake.
Oh yeah, but they were so
Still,
good.
it was still so good. It was like, oh my gosh, loved
Yeah,
those.
I did like those. I did.
And I'm like you, Sam. I like the older sitcom shows more so than the newer stuff they have now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really honestly now, I don't watch a lot of like current TV. I watch more of like the streaming. I mean, as a kid, obviously streaming didn't exist. So like
Right.
all you did was watch sitcoms and stuff like that. So like,
Mhm.
growing up, you had Full House, Family Matters, like Step by Step and Boy Meets World and all that. And I mean, TGIF on ABC was my night. That was
Do you
best
remember
ever.
do you remember Perfect Strangers?
Yes.
No.
I I only got into it towards like the final seasons because obviously the earlier seasons, like I was way too young to like even understand it because, I was probably like 3 or 4 at the time. But I did kind of remember watching the later seasons and I did think it was kind of funny. And actually, Family Matters is a spin-off of Perfect Strangers.
Yeah, I used to watch Perfect Strangers, and like I don't remember everything about it, but I
Right.
remember watching it
Yeah.
with those two guys, and yeah, I do remember like laughing at it, but yeah, and I love Family Matters, so I guess that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Because like I kind of remember I read like a few weeks ago there was like talk of them rebooting Perfect Strangers. So that's kind of why I brought it up.
Oh God, leave it alone, leave it alone.
I know, because there now it's just it's not really TV related, but there's talk about them wanting to remake The Bodyguard.
I did hear
The
that.
Bodyguard.
It's
I'm
like,
sorry. Please leave this movie alone. That movie is an iconic movie. Whitney Houston, God rest her soul, rest in peace, hon. But and Kevin Costner, you don't get more iconic than that. You cannot remake that movie. It
Agreed,
will not be as
100%.
good.
it's like, yeah, at this point, it's like, why are you people rebooting stuff that no one asked you to reboot?
Exactly.
Literally, no one asked you to do this. Like, last time I checked, there were no petitions online saying that we want you to reboot this. We want you to reboot that. Literally nobody is asking you to do this. And you're doing it.
They can't come up with anything else.
Okay.
That's it.
I will admit there's one reboot that I read about that actually is not actually a bad idea per se. It's the reboot that they're doing for the Wonder Years.
Yes.
When I read the concept, I was like, you know what? Actually, this would actually be really good idea. It's actually a pretty good concept because they're basically gonna do a similar-esque show, but ultimately it's gonna be a different show though. Simply because of the fact that you're changing the family from white to black and you're gonna explore very different experiences of the same time period than what you had in the original show. So that is like, so I would say that's one of the few times where a reboot of it would actually be pretty good TV. I would imagine. I don't know about what you guys think, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem if you want to have like a similar concept, but it's a different story and you just use the same title because it doesn't mess with the integrity of the original.
Right.
So, like, I'm totally fine that they're literally taking the title and kind of just repurposing it for a similar type show. Of course, you hear people grumble, especially with, the fact that they changed the races and stuff like that, but that shouldn't matter. Like it's this is going to be its own show. It just has a similar the same name. So I agree with you. Like I think I'm interested to see how that plays out.
yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, like a lot of times reboots are really pretty much the same thing as the original, but they will do things like they'll update it to a different decade, like more to now,
Hmm.
or they may somehow make it more gritty or whatever, where they quote unquote gritty or whatever. And it's like, again, no one asked you to do this. No one. And you're doing it.
Yeah, that was
Why?
kind of like the when they updated Boy Meets World. We just talked about that one to
Yeah,
their to
girl meets
Girl Meets
world.
World. I'm like, really?
And it's his daughter. It's
I know.
Corey's daughter.
Yeah, I know, but it's just it didn't really. I was like, it really was unnecessary.
Yeah. You know, I guess what they're trying to do is because Boy Meets World was such a popular show when we were growing up, they wanted to almost hit the next generation and see if they could, spark again. There there's certain things that it worked because of the time. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sitcoms now don't do as well. You hear of so many sitcoms that are on for like a season or two and then they're gone. You know? So it's like I feel like that's why like the streaming has changed the game so much, because you can have like that sitcom type show, but it's different. And maybe it's because of that freedom. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, but yeah, it's they could have left that alone.
Right. They
Yeah.
really could have. It's one of the few that they didn't need to try to spark a new generation, because it's just not going to happen with today's generation at all.
What was your favorite show growing up, like, as a kid?
I have to think about that one for a minute.
Well, I mean, if you're really asking about like as a kid, then obviously my favorite stuff would be your typical kid stuff. Um, one of my favorites was, of course, Reading Rainbow,
Yes.
because it's only reasonable that if I'm like a nerdy book reader, then a show that encourages kids to read a lot would be a thing I would love.
Yep.
LeVar was great.
I'm kind of weird. Mine has to be the Dukes of Hazzard. I didn't watch a lot because we were lucky if I could get PBS every once in a while from where I lived. We got 3 channels, and channel 44 which was the PBS channel, didn't always come in. So I was left with channel 7 and channel 9 around here, and you pretty much watched whatever was on it.
Right.
And for me, it was Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, like the bit of TV that I was allowed to watch, like my parents, especially my mom, more than my dad, but they would definitely encourage me to watch, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street, and then I discovered Reading Rainbow along the way, and I enjoyed all those things.
Kangaroo. Sorry,
Uh,
that was another one I watched. Captain Kangaroo.
Funny enough, I never actually watched an episode of that, or I don't know, maybe I didn't catch it when it was on, because I think like it was starting to end their TV run, right, in the late 80s or mid 80s or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I kind of remember watching it when I was probably, I don't even remember how old I was when I would watch Captain Kangaroo. But I mean, granted, I didn't get to see it that often. Same with like Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street. I didn't get to see those that often because we were lucky if we got PBS to come in.
Loved Mr. Rogers.
Oh, I
that's a
still
real
love Mr. Rogers.
that was a real shame. That was a real shame, that you weren't able to watch that stuff, because I mean, not only was it like good television just for anybody to watch, but especially when, we were all kids, like that was like those shows were like great, really. I mean, they taught you a lot.
Yeah.
And
I ended up being able to watch them more as I got older.
yeah.
But when I was little, we didn't have a lot of we weren't able to get those channels all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame.
Yeah. But I mean, my daughter likes Mr. Rogers because I have one DVD of it's like a collection of I don't know how many episodes, but so we watch it.
Well, that's great. I mean, yeah, I mean, he was such a wonderful human being. And what was great about, like, I don't know how you felt, Sam, but I kind of feel like thinking back on it that the one thing about Fred Rogers that was great is that when he was talking to you, the audience, because, presumably you were a kid at the time, he doesn't like talk down at you. He just makes things more digestible for you to understand it, but he doesn't talk down at you like you're an idiot or anything.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, one of the main reasons why I like that show, I always wanted to go on the train.
Oh yeah,
It goes from
yeah,
the
the
living
trolley.
room into the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, the trolley. And you take the trolley,
Always wanted to.
right? And you take the trolley and you go to the land of make believe.
But
Yeah.
no, I know what Sam's talking about. I remember the train that went from the living room to the kitchen.
Oh, oh yeah, the other one.
Yeah, the other one, not the trolley, the train.
Oh, yes. You're right. I forgot about the other train.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to go on trolley because I wanted to go to the land of make believe, obviously, but what kid doesn't want to go there?
Right.
Yeah.
Another one that I used to watch as a kid. I don't know if you guys remember Eureka's Castle.
No, I never saw that
No?
one.
Is that past your time? It was a kind of a similar, with like puppets and stuff like that. I just remember enjoying it, but as like I was an older kid, like in elementary school, I was a big Power Rangers fan.
Oh yeah, I
That was
remember
my
Power Rangers.
that
I
was my
remember the original Power Rangers.
yes, the original Power Rangers. I'm not talking about the
Oh,
rest of it. Like I was the original
yeah. I remember the original Power Rangers. Oh my God.
Tommy and Jason and
Mhm.
Billy and Kim.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what? It's so funny you mentioned that because I remember when they started showing it on Fox in the afternoon. My two cousins were watching as well because there was a brief period for a few years where like after school I would go to their apartment because my parents were working, so there's nobody at home. So I would go to their place and stay there, until like 6-ish when like one of my parents, are done with work and they'd come pick me up and take me home. So when Power Rangers started showing on TV, they were like, "Oh yeah, we remember the show back in Hong Kong." They had the same reaction when they started showing Sailor Moon. It's like, "Oh yeah, we saw this when we were in Hong Kong too." So it's like, yeah, we're finally catching up with what's going on in Asia. Yeah.
That happened
Yeah.
eventually, right?
Yeah, I mean, it got really funny, like, when anime started becoming a bigger thing in the US. They were like, "Oh, yeah, we saw this and this and this and this and this show," and, like, "I wonder where they're gonna bring this show," and it's like, "Okay, great." Uh, oh, yeah, I remember I also enjoyed watching Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, I did watch that too.
That was great. That was, like, one of the few cartoons, I would say, at the time where it's like it's entertaining, but they had really solid storytelling, and the stories were also kind of on the serious side. So it's not like your typical kids cartoon, where wackiness ensues and like, comedy happens like every 5 seconds. But yeah, that was a great show. I that was a definite favorite of mine.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned, like the sitcoms, so like Saved by the Bell and
Yes.
Family Matters and Full House, all that stuff. Still love those. Still watch them if they're ever on.
Yeah. I
What
have to
do
say, I
you
think Married with Children was one of my absolute favorite sitcoms when I was a kid, when I was younger, back in the 90s.
The Power Syndication.
I know, right? I love that. That was like our family night. That was like family time. We would all sit and watch it. And we would laugh and we would laugh. And I mean, I know it's not appropriate. Most of the stuff they talk about is so not appropriate for this day and age. But at the time, it was funny.
Yeah, it was, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Well,
Yes.
it's so funny because and I feel like I'm dating myself by saying this, but kids today don't understand, and I actually saw a meme about this, and it's so true that kids today don't understand the fear of during commercial breaks, you run and try and get everything you need to get done before you can come back, or to make sure you come back in time for the show to pick back up.
Yes.
Because you couldn't just rewind unless you taped it.
Hmm.
There was no, you know, rewinding live TV. That didn't exist.
Exactly.
There's no DVR or anything like that.
Nothing like that.
It's not like streaming where you can pause it and then go pee and then come back.
Right. You had 30 to 45 seconds to run to the bathroom, go get your snack, go whatever, and you would hear whoever going, "It's back on," and you run as fast as you can to get back into the room so that you don't miss anything. Because if not, it's going to be a long time before you see it again.
Exactly. Exactly.
You have to wait until the summer when they do the
Yep.
reruns of the previous season.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
I remember that. I remember that.
Uh,
Here's another one that I'm probably going to date myself on this one. I don't know if you two ever watched it, but it was Sequest. Do you guys remember that show?
I do remember
Yes.
that show. I didn't
Yes.
really watch it, but I do remember it.
Oh, I was obsessed with it. Like,
I saw the earlier seasons, but then I kind of lost track of it. So then,
well, it was only on for 3 seasons. Well, 2.5 actually.
yeah, I think I only saw like maybe the first season, and then I lost track of it. And
Yeah.
It was with
didn't watch it.
Jonathan Brandis, right?
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Ugh. That's
Yeah.
sad. That's a sad. Oh, I didn't even realize Roy Scheider was in it.
Yeah, he was the captain.
Yeah, he was in the first 2. He was in the first 2 seasons, and then he didn't come back for the 3rd season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I only remember
interesting.
watching the episodes when he was like still the captain. So
Anyone who doesn't know who we're talking about, he's the guy he played the police chief in Jaws.
Jaws. Oh.
And I mean, obviously, I don't know if all three of us, but Friends. I'm a huge Friends fan. Still watch it.
I liked Friends. I wasn't that big a fan of it though. It was okay.
Love it. I love it so much. They made me want to live in New York City. Of course, it's totally not realistic, but
no, it's not. It's
it did
absolutely not
make me
in any
want.
way.
It did make me want to live in New York City.
I'm sure it did for a lot of people.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Mary, where I enjoyed it. Like there were some seasons and some episodes that I liked more than the others, but would
Mhm.
I say it's my favorite? Not really.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, more power
Uh,
to the people that absolutely love the show. I mean, that's awesome. I have shows that I still like that probably nobody else does, but that's okay.
I find a lot of the shows that I like, a lot of people don't. But in terms of Friends, thankfully, all my friends like it. And if you have watched the show, I have been told I am the Chandler of my friend group.
I can
So
see it.
if you know who Chandler is, yeah,
I can see it.
I'm Chandler.
well, I
I
mean,
think
yeah, I mean, the thing with Friends is that like it definitely appeals to a lot of people because if you're in a large enough group of people, you guys fit one of the characters. I mean, that's just how it is. That's one thing I do appreciate
Yeah.
about the show is that they did a pretty good job giving the 6 of them like distinctive characteristics that make them different from each other, and yet you still believe that they're friends with each other, and you can actually start like you were just saying, like identify or people can identify you with like one character versus the others.
yeah.
Yep.
I was more of a Golden Girls fan.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah,
And
that show was
I
great.
think I'm pretty much the Sophia of that show. I think Sophia is like my spirit animal.
I don't know which one I would be.
Picture this.
I can't even imagine like who I
You
would
would be
fit in.
Rose.
Really? I guess
Yeah, I think you would be Rose. Minus
No, I could
the
see
kind of dumbass, the dumbness that she had.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sarcastic enough to be Dorothy.
thing.
Yeah, and I don't see you
I
as
think
Blanche.
I would be Dorothy.
Yeah, you would be Dorothy. We don't have a Blanche.
Which
Yeah,
is probably a good thing, but
Yeah.
none of us are that man crazy. I mean, there are moments where, we kind of deviate a little bit, but
depending on the dude, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
but, we haven't quite gone off the edge of the cliff there, so.
And then as later on and again, I feel like I've become alone in a lot of this, but I'm a big Office fan.
Ooh, I
The
like
US
The Office.
version, I love it. And there's so
like
many
The
people who hate it, but I feel like you need to have a certain sense of humor to appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I just it
Yeah.
cracks me up. It's because again, it's that sarcasm. I'm
It
so
is.
sarcastic that I can't even help it.
It is.
Yeah, I've only seen a little bit of The Office. I think by the time, shows like The Office started coming around, for me personally, my TV watching habits kind of changed a lot. So I just don't really watch as much TV as I used to, actually.
Well, about
'Cause
the only
Yeah.
TV I get to watch anymore is if it's cartoons.
well, there
You're
are
going
some good
backwards.
ones. There are
Yeah.
some good ones, though.
I don't know. I literally I'm either watching Team Umizoomi, Bubble Guppies, Coco Melon. If I'm lucky, I get to watch Nature Cat or the Wild Kratts. If I'm lucky, I get to watch one of those two with her. But it's mostly Team Umizoomi or Bubble Guppy.
Joys of being a parent.
Yes.
While on
And
vacation, I had my 2 nephews and we watched Peppa Pig.
oh yes, that's the other one we watch a lot of, Peppa Pig.
And there's another one. I can't remember the name of
They
it.
started imitating a British accent yet?
My youngest, my 3-year-old nephew, he speaks like he's British
Well,
sometimes.
she says the color purple like she's British.
Purple?
Yeah.
Pepo.
Oh.
It is the
Yeah.
cutest thing how she pronounces the word purple. But
So,
back onto the TV thing.
Yes.
so I guess the question is like, what have you guys been watching in more recent times? Well, I mean, I know, Mary, you were saying like you wind up watching a lot of kiddie shows because of the kiddo, but anything else?
If I'm not half asleep and if I'm not sick of the television because it's on all day long, I will watch. If I get a chance, I will watch Law and Order, like all of the Law and Orders that was out, the original,
the million
versions
different
of them.
ones.
the million different versions of it. Yes, I love those. CSI when it was on, love that.
The original, yes.
The original, and I really liked Miami.
Okay.
I liked the Miami one.
Yeah, I watched the original until Gil left, and then I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, I kind of stopped after that one myself. Another one that I've gotten into that I watch if I can remember it's on and to watch is NCIS New Orleans.
I was a huge original NCIS fan.
Yes, I like the original as well, but I really like the New Orleans because I'm a huge fan of Scott Bakula, and 2, I love Lucas Black.
I was a huge Chris O'Donnell fan, and I think it was because of Batman and Robin.
Oh yeah, duh. That's just a given.
Like watching, Batman Forever obviously is when he first came.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh yes, okay, Chris O'Donnell, you're on my list.
Oh, we're not going to talk
A
about
pretty
the
big list, so
I was like, we're not going to talk about the list because that would be another 6 to 10 episodes for each of us.
yeah, exactly. But you know what I like is now with streaming, especially like during COVID and stuff and like working from home, is I was able to watch a lot of TV shows I didn't watch when they were on.
Yes, that was me too.
So like I watched like Gossip Girl, the original Gossip Girl. And I just started
through that one.
What?
I said I didn't make it all the way through that one. I got like halfway through.
Yeah,
and I never got it finished.
started to suffer. Yeah, it definitely started to suffer the more, and then the ending was just didn't make sense to me. But whatever. But I liked all the actors in it. They've all continued on with pretty good careers. So,
Was it suffering from this has been on TV too long syndrome?
I think they kind of ran out of ideas, and they
That
just
doesn't happen.
it was just the ending felt rushed. Like, okay, you know what? This is the last season. We're just gonna wrap this up, and it makes no sense.
Oh, I've seen those. Yes, I've watched other shows like that. I'm like, You just left
Like-
more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Yes,
like
Mary, because we literally just talked about one show just like that in the previous.
Yeah, I wasn't, but
episode.
I wasn't even talking about that show in particular, Liz. That was the thing. I was like, what should the
But,
shows like that?
but to be fair, that show kind of does fit that definition, though.
Yes,
No,
yes,
exactly.
yes, it does.
The complaint with the last season is the complaint that I have with the last season of Gossip Girl. 'Cause I feel like they just kind of blew through it. Like, you know what? Let's just finish this and end it. And
Mhm.
nothing ended the way that I think it should have ended. So, if you
Yep.
want to know, anyone that's listening, you can reach out and I'll tell you how I think it should have ended, but not the way that it was ended. But yeah, so like I watched that, and then I watched Downton Abbey.
Love Downton Abbey.
It's so good.
Oh, it is. I love that show. Oh, I
Oh my
love that one.
god. I'm actually like in the middle of rewatching it again, especially
Yeah.
with the new movie coming out.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. And actually I just watched, and it was only on TV for one season, and Liz, I mentioned this in one of the chats that we're in, but Kings, which was on NBC.
Yes.
Oh, that was such a good one. Yes.
It was
I
such
I
a
kind of
good,
yeah
so
I kind of remember
good.
that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's obviously based off of the biblical story of King David. So,
Mhm.
but and I know we talked about this. It wasn't made for the correct time. I think if it was made now, it would probably have lasted more than one season. But for that one season, like I was hooked. Like I'm
Yeah.
actually really upset it didn't last longer.
I know it was so good.
Arguably, that may be one of those shows where it possibly may be worth them rebooting it.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
keeping the story going, because like I'm sitting here now, I just finished the last episode and I'm like, all right, well, what would have happened next if they got another season?
Mm-hmm.
Or did they end it the way that they ended it because they knew it wasn't being picked up for another season? But normally you don't find out about that when you're filming.
Right.
So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what would have happened next, based off of my knowledge of the story in the Bible and stuff like that. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it was a really good show. I'm really upset that it didn't last.
Yeah.
I mean,
But again, it was the wrong time.
I mean,
Mhm.
just as like kind of like a follow to like our earlier point about how like you guys are rebooting things nobody asked you to reboot. Well, here now we're saying is okay, if you're gonna reboot stuff, you should be rebooting those shows that got canceled too early.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are the ones you should be rebooting.
Well, they did
Yes.
technically reboot Gossip Girl. They remade.
Yeah,
They're remaking
need
Gossip
to.
Girl.
That's the one that didn't need to be redone, because the one that ended, I mean, granted, it should have ended better. It was on for, what was it, 6 seasons?
Something like that.
There's no reason for it to be rebooted. And again, just like you mentioned, Liz, it's a reboot for like this time. So it's like, even though Gossip Girl, kind of very similar, where it's like the social media bullying and stuff like that,
Mhm.
now it's even like more so, because obviously technology has gotten better since the original Gossip Girl ended. But there's no reason to reboot the show. Like, what more could you do? There's nothing more. Like, there was no reason. If you were going to do a reboot, like, instead of reboots, how about you do like a small mini thing with the original cast, like almost like a here's where the characters are now,
Yeah.
like a reunion type thing. That I can appreciate.
Right.
I'm very passionate about that. I don't know if you noticed.
Just a smidge.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're all like we all agree that like so many of these reboots are just not necessary. No one like we literally said no one asked for you guys to reboot these things.
Well, and like you were talking about the Wonder Years, you want to know what else I'm looking forward to, and I can't remember if it's a movie or a mini series, so I apologize if I got this wrong, but prequel to The Sopranos. I can't
think
remember if it's a movie or a
I think it's a
series.
movie. I think it's a
Like,
movie.
Not
That's the
sure.
stuff that I'm okay with. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling story, you're telling a different part of the story to explain how the series got to where it was when you started. Like, that's stuff that I can understand. So whether it's a prequel or a sequel type situation, like a where they are now or where they came from, that I'm okay with. But yeah, the rebooting stuff, and this is for movies as well. Stop it.
I mean,
Unless,
literally,
like
yeah,
we mentioned, we ask you to. Okay, can
like
we get on
literally,
Kings?
yeah. I mean, because I remember like a few years ago, this was actually one of my, I wouldn't call it like my favorite show, but it was definitely like one of my, top 10 shows, I guess, was Battlestar Galactica. Like they did
Oh,
they
that's
call it the reimagining of the original series. Now, I had never seen the original series, so when I started watching the reimagined series, like I had no preconceptions or prejudices against it because I never saw the original. And I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I enjoy the show. Um, and quite a few people definitely enjoy the show as well because Sci-Fi Channel like greenlit 4 seasons of this show, which is way more than what the original TV show did. Because I think the original TV show was like on ABC and it did like I think 1, maybe 2 seasons at most, and then it got canceled. But yeah, that was a great show too. Like the writing was pretty solid. I guess the one negative would be the finale episode was like pretty divisive for some people. Like some people loved it, some people hated it, but they I I was like I didn't hate the ending, but I definitely see why people hated the ending. That was a show I loved.
You know, there's nothing more tragic than having an amazing series and the finale just blows.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
so many, but one that popped into my head is How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if either of you watched that. I Again, it was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I kind of watched it. I didn't really get too into that one though.
Yeah, so the last season, now they knew it was ending, but like they built up everything and you finally met the mother. Okay? It took like 8 seasons and you finally met the mother. And you get all the way, all the way, all the way to the final episode. And I'm going to, big spoiler alert, she dies. I'm like, what? I just waited 8 seasons and she dies in the very last episode when I just met her? Like, what the hell? Like, people were so angry. I was angry, but so angry. It's actually pretty funny now that I think about it. How many series, like, the series is so good and blah, 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 and then the ending is just terrible that it almost ruins everything for you. Case in
Yeah.
point, what you guys were talking about last episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is frustrating when it's like you dedicated, your time and your support for something, and then you get to the final season or the final episodes and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like,
It's
but
so
what's
frustrating.
annoying is How I Met Your Mother was good until the last episode. It
Mm-hmm.
was literally the last episode that just bombed.
Yeah.
So sad. So
Yeah.
sad.
It's pretty frustrating. Really it is. It's like, do you guys not know how to end anything?
And it was easy. Literally so easy. And we finally met. We get to see them get married, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And they all live happily ever after. Not, we're going to kill off the mother and have him go with someone else.
I mean, it's like, how are they teaching people how to write? The
The writers were just like, I'm done. Here you
I mean,
go.
honestly, it feels like, all these people that, write for TV and for movies, like when they write like weird endings like that, it's like, how are they teaching you people to write these things nowadays? I mean, it honestly feels like these people don't know how the hell to write when they write
Yeah.
endings like that. Like,
Well, and you want to know what else is bad though is, and I can only think of one TV show, so maybe you guys know another, but of TV shows that have had the same writers, and then like out of nowhere they change writers, and it just completely like changes the entire series. So like the one that I'm thinking about is actually Gilmore Girls. And what I'm happy about is that the original writers came back, and that's when they did that Netflix special. And basically they wrote that special because they wanted to end it the way that they originally would have if they had stayed on. Obviously it was a little bit different because it's now years later and stuff like that, but like, you know, basically they had left in, it was 8 seasons, I think at like the 7th season. They weren't there for the last 2 seasons, I think, and the last 2 seasons were the worst 2 out of all of them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think any other shows that I've seen that have.
Like, I know sitcom has multiple writers, which is
Yeah.
fine, you know, and
Well,
like certain series, like I know Grey's has different writers and different directors for each
yeah.
different episodes and stuff
Well,
like that.
yeah,
But
I
it's
mean,
like,
yeah, from my understanding, TV in general is usually a writing staff because especially for like network TV where they will typically have like 20 episodes, 22 episode seasons. It's like you can't realistically expect just 1 or 2 writers to write every single episode. I mean, you'd basically have to give these people like a whole at least 6 months, you know, just to strictly write all these episodes. So maybe even longer. So it actually makes sense that you would, you know, depending on the nature of the show, you could have like 10 people on a writing staff splitting up like, okay, you guys do episode blah 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 blah, and then you do these other ones, and you know, and then you have the 1 or 2 people who are the showrunners that, you know, are keeping track of who's doing what and making sure it's all cohesive.
Yeah.
I just know in with that show, it just, yeah. I was glad that they came back and did the Netflix
Yeah.
special.
I can't really think of any other examples because to be fair, only until recently, I never really paid much attention to who the actual writers on the show typically are. Because like, you know, sometimes when you're watching these shows, especially with like, you know, the network shows where they're like multiple episodes, it's like you're just so focused on actually watching the thing. You sometimes don't necessarily think of like digesting, like, you know, in minutiae or whatever, like this episode is better than the other one, and then you go digging into like who wrote them. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I only kind of started looking into it like with Game of Thrones actually, because especially like, you know, some of the criticisms about that show was how like, you know, there's like too many of these like tropes, and how it's too violent or too much sex in it, and like there's too much like sexism and racism in it. And it became a topic of discussion about the fact that like after a certain point, none of the writers on the staff are women. So some people felt like, well, the way women are portrayed as time goes on in the show, like, is not as good as it could have been because you don't have female writers like objecting to certain things that came up. And also, you know, and also like the criticism that pops up over and over again in recent years has been like, well, you don't have enough writers of color on staff for some of these shows, that sort of thing. So that's when like I started looking into who are the writers for different episodes and stuff like that, and that's when like I started noticing, some of these criticisms are actually pretty valid, and not just for Game of Thrones in particular, but even in like other shows as well, where like those criticisms pop up, and like I'm looking, I'm like, wow, yeah, they're kind of right when they say that.
Very
Yeah,
much so.
seriously. Have you guys watched The Crown?
No, I've not gotten into that one.
I've been meaning to, but you know, I'm suffering from, oh my god, there's just too much stuff to watch syndrome.
No, I love The Crown. I love The
I've
Crown.
heard good things about it, but you know, I've never actually watched it.
I know, like, the first couple of seasons, like, the actual royal family was actually impressed with it. But last season kind of took a turn, which it doesn't surprise me because it's all about, like, Princess Diana and that whole thing. And obviously they don't want any of the truth to come out. And they've said that a lot of, like, it's based off of fact, but they take liberties, obviously. Like, it's also for entertainment. So they do embellish a lot. Unfortunately, it kind of makes the royal family not look so good and Diana looking fantastic, but it
Yeah,
is what
she
it
was
is.
no she was
She wasn't a saint.
no, she was not as squeaky clean as people would like to pretend that she actually was.
Right.
But I do truly believe that the royal family did her dirty.
Oh, absolutely,
They
100%.
absolutely 110,000% did that woman dirty. But she was no saint.
Right. Nope, I agree, 100%, 100%. But yeah, so the only I was asking because number one, obviously we're talking about TV, but funny thing is we're talking about TV during the Emmys. The Emmys are on right now.
Oh.
And I just saw that The Crown won 2 awards already.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I have my inbox open and I signed up to like some newsletters to different, entertainment websites and yeah. They're
I have to say one thing with them, I mean, whether or not the storyline is 100% correct or not, the actors that they get are fantastic. They become those people.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked up like the cast listing, when like I know they change it up every couple seasons, but when I looked up the cast listing, I've seen quite a few of them in other, projects before, and overall, like they're all pretty solid actors. So I had little doubt that when they actually do the parts, they can do it very well. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the actress who played Diana, for instance, it's actually scary mannerisms that she like it obviously that's her job is to pick up on those mannerisms and portray them because it's things that people recognize for
Right.
her, but it's just it's crazy. It's like in a good way. How they do, like, ugh, I want to do that. Just saying, I want to do that. Pick me, I'll be in The Crown.
Right?
I don't know who I'll play, but I'll be in The Crown. I'll play Meghan Markle.
Really?
Like I can. I'm yeah. I'm too short to play Kate. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
All right. I'm out. Can't be in The Crown. What else is there?
Well, I'm sure we can probably get into The Witcher in some way, shape, or form.
There you go.
We could be tavern wenches or something.
Random villager number 3.
That
Yeah.
works.
I'll be in one of the MCU shows. I'll be an
There you
extra. I could
There
have
we
been
go.
in WandaVision. I could be in season 2 of Loki. Call me up.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, actually. I have relatives who, live in Louisiana, and the funny thing is that actually a couple of them have been extras before. Like, I remember one cousin, she was an extra for the last Fantastic Four movie they did, the one with Michael B. Jordan. She was actually an extra in that one. Because I think they filmed part of it in like Lafayette, which is like where she was living at the time. So yeah, yeah.
I had a chance to be an extra in a movie that was shooting in Manhattan, but I was only like 18 and they wanted me to drive my car. Like they wanted my car in there also. And I wasn't comfortable driving in New York. So I said nope. Because again, I was only 18. Now, you want me to drive a car? I'll drive a car in a movie. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. Actually, I was there was like one time I was on campus, like this was like some years ago now. I was on campus and like there was this girl hanging around. Well, she was probably a few years older than me, so at the time. And she was like asking, random students that, were going in and out of the campus, like, hey, do you have time to film like later this afternoon? We need more people to be extras for some movie we're doing. Like, obviously, I have no idea what movie it is. I don't know if it's like an indie thing or if it's like a bigger thing. But she was like asking for students if they want to be extras because I guess the original people that were supposed to show up like didn't show up for some reason. So, and I guess they were really desperate to find people to do it. And, who else would be available last minute except, college students who don't have classes the rest of the day? Unfortunately, I couldn't do it, but yeah, that would have been kind of fun.
So I did come across the 100 best TV shows of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to go through all of them, but number 100, one I've never heard of before, it's called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
I've heard of that
No.
one.
I've actually heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's like one of those weird celebrity reality shows.
Yeah.
Number 93 is RuPaul's Drag Race. Very good show.
That's entertaining, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen episodes of that. I like that show.
Number 90, I'm actually shocked that it's this low, is 24. I know that was a huge...
Oh, I like that show
That
though.
that was like a very popular show, so I'm actually shocked that
Yeah,
it is so far down. Number 83 is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I love that show.
I like the earlier seasons more than the later ones.
Yeah,
Just
I
me
agree.
personally.
Yeah, I mean, I liked them all. I just wasn't crazy about the way they killed off the mom.
Oh my god, that was so sad.
That was such a sad, horrible episode. But I'm like, why did you kill her off? Damn it!
Yeah. Let's see. Number 75, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I never got into that one.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about it, but I've just never actually watched it.
Number 71 is Lost.
Yeah, that was okay. The first couple of seasons, the first 2 seasons or so were better than the last ones.
That was another one that didn't end very well.
Yeah, that one ended strangely.
I just couldn't really get into it. Like I tried watching a little bit of it before, but I just couldn't get into it. I mean, I think it's because the premise just sounded too silly to me. I couldn't take it that seriously, so I just couldn't get into it.
Well, I was a fan of Matthew Fox and Dominic Monaghan. And a young Amelia Clark was in it too.
Oh, okay.
Pretty
I
sure
didn't
she
know
was in
that.
that one, right?
I don't remember. I'm not sure.
Or
I
no,
mean,
not Amelia Clark. I'm sorry. Evangeline Lilly. I'm sorry. That's who I meant.
Oh, yes. That's right. She was in it.
Yeah, not Amelia Clark. Evangeline Lilly.
Number 57 is Sex and the City.
Okay, I can see that. I actually liked that show. Wasn't crazy about the last couple of seasons, but the first few were good.
Yeah, I never actually watched the show because like so much of it was on like premium cable, and we didn't have it in my household, so like I never saw it. So
I saw reruns.
right.
When I got regular TV, when we got the like direct TV and stuff, I saw it then.
Okay.
I didn't start watching it until I saw the movies. Number 50 is Downton Abbey.
Okay. Good show. Love that show.
Number 46 is Doctor Who.
Yes, Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who's good.
I kind of lost track of it after like Matt Smith left,
Yeah.
which is like sadly like quite a few years ago now.
I hate when people leave. Number 44 is The Crown.
Okay. Haven't seen that one.
Number 42 is South Park.
I've seen South Park. South Park is another one that I think has overstayed its welcome.
Yeah, that's just one of those shows I couldn't get
Yeah,
into.
I agree. Them and The Simpsons.
Yes, both of them. It's like, okay.
I mean, yeah, I love The Simpsons, but it's like I stopped watching it really
Yeah.
seasons ago, years ago.
Yeah.
I'll watch the earlier seasons on rerun, don't get me wrong, because those were great, but you know,
Mhm.
I just kind of lost track of it years ago.
Yeah, but South Park, the first maybe 2 or 3 times they killed Kenny was funny, and then after that, it was just like, oh, that's stupid for South Park.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they killed Kenny! Oh, they killed Kenny again? Okay,
Poor Kenny.
I know.
Number 32 is the US version of The Office.
Okay, I
Okay.
can see that. It was pretty good. I liked
Number
it.
25 is The Handmaid's Tale.
That is actually not a bad show. When I had Hulu, I was trying to watch it to get caught up. I didn't make it through all the episodes before I got rid of my Hulu because I quit watching it and I couldn't afford Hulu anymore at the time. But it's good. It's a good show.
Yeah, it is.
I don't really know. Oh, number 15 is The West Wing.
That was a decent show. I didn't really get into that one, but it was good what the few episodes I did watch of it.
Yeah, same here.
I love that show. Number 7 is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's just those final 2 seasons. Damn it. Well, we already spent like, plenty of time
Yes,
talking about that one.
We don't need to go into.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there.
Number 6 is The Office.
The
Number
British version?
5, the British version, yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Number 5 is Breaking Bad. Amazing show.
You know, that is one show I always meant to watch and I never got to. I've never seen it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, same here. I never got around to watching that.
Number 4, I've never heard of. It's called The Thick of It.
Never heard of it.
Number 3, Mad Men.
It was another one I never watched.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
saw that one either.
Yeah, I never saw that
No,
one
it was
either.
popular though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was really popular.
Number 2 is The Wire.
I'm not surprised about that one. A lot of people
And
liked it.
Can you guess what number 1 is? It was mentioned tonight.
What, you mean
Law and Order?
Friends?
Nope.
Friends?
Sopranos.
The
Oh,
Sopranos. Okay, I can see that. The few
Again,
scenes-
minus that last episode.
Yeah.
That last scene, I should say.
Yeah.
Not even the episode, just the scene. So yeah, it's the top 100, or some of the top 100 of the 21st century.
I can see some of those. I could see the Sopranos being in the top. I wouldn't have maybe suggested that they be the number 1 show, but I would have figured top 10 for them at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was based off of. I don't
Mhm.
know if it was based off of ratings or...
Probably, because I know it was popular, very popular.
Oh, yes. I think that was really kind of like the beginning of HBO series.
I think it was actually, yeah.
I guess like the last thing we could talk about before we close off is what kind of stuff are you watching now? I mean, that's a fair question.
That is a very fair question. Like I said, besides like rewatching things, I don't even know.
I think for me, the last new series, and I still haven't made it all the way through the first season of it yet, was on Netflix. I think it's called Shadow and Bone.
Oh, yes. I've seen a little bit of it. I didn't watch it all the way through, but I've seen some of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm like halfway through the first season. Granted, there's not that many episodes, but I think I'm like halfway through the first season. Bridgerton, I'm just anxiously waiting season 2.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are.
And The Witcher. I am anxiously awaiting The Witcher 2, season 2 of The Witcher.
Right. I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to come out like beginning of next year, I think.
End of this year.
Or end of this year.
I think like December 21st or something like that.
Merry Christmas to you.
Exactly. I'm like, woohoo!
Yeah, I think for me it's mostly like you, Mary, streaming. So like I watched it was a short series. It was only 2 seasons, but like again on Netflix I watched like the Selena series,
Oh yeah.
which was basically similar to the movie, but it actually was a little different. It was parts of her story that we didn't see in the movie, so I enjoyed that. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the MCU shows that we've talked about on here.
Yeah, obviously those.
Though I haven't watched all the What If
Same.
episodes.
Yeah, same here.
I feel like there's
Same.
just too many.
I
And maybe it's
got
just because
caught
they're
up,
so
I
different.
think I made it to the zombie episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I skipped a bunch, but I saw the zombie episode. I saw like the first two, then I skipped, I saw the zombie, and then I haven't watched since.
Yeah, I need to go. I think I've seen all the episodes now, except for like the one that just came out.
Yeah,
Um,
I haven't got I just haven't been in the mood to like really watch them. So I only saw the first 2 episodes.
I've been binging them because I won't watch it for like I'll forget like for a couple of weeks and then I'll go watch a couple of episodes. I'm like, oh yeah. there's
And
episodes.
yes, listeners, we will be doing an episode eventually on What If, just like we did the
Yes.
other MCU shows.
2 other shows that I'm looking forward to the next seasons is Cobra Kai and The Boys.
I have not watched The Boys.
Boys
Because
is so good.
I don't have Amazon. I guess that's why I don't have the Amazon streaming.
Oh, tell me, I can give you my password. I'll share. I share the wealth. Everyone else in my family uses it, so
Yeah.
Because I want to see, especially when Lord of the. I know I'm going to get it when the Lord of the Rings TV show comes out.
yeah.
Definitely going to get it then.
Yeah. I haven't seen either one either, but I've heard like good things though.
Yeah, I haven't watched Cobra Kai, although I've heard really good. I'm like you, Liz. I've heard really good things about that one, and I do love the fact that it's based. It's like a continuation, kind of the Karate Kid movies,
Yep.
the original Karate Kid movies.
Yeah.
And The Boys just looks like good fun.
It's literally a superhero show, but it's like dark superhero.
It's
show.
an irreverent take on superheroes, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's basically like if superheroes were commercialized
Uh-huh.
and like all they care about is like praise and the money and like whatever. Like basically celebrities today,
Uh-huh.
but they're superheroes.
Yeah.
And they're owned by a company.
Yeah.
That's like the synopsis of it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I love Carl Urban, so that's I've been meaning to watch it. I've been meaning to get Amazon because I love Carl Urban.
I did watch Bridgerton. I've read the books as well that it's based off of. That was like the last full series I really watched the entire thing of, other than the MCU stuff. Oddly enough, some of the stuff I've watched is actually not in English. I've been watching a lot of Korean TV shows actually. My the last few months I've been watching their version of like reality TV, which is so much more entertaining than pretty much any other reality TV show you're watching on American TV right now. Mainly because there's a lot of humor in these shows. It's not like that they wrote specifically for the show to be funny necessarily, but just the interaction between the cast members on the show, and sometimes when they have guests on the show, the interactions with the guests, it leads to funny conversations that they capture on camera, and it's very entertaining. Like I started watching this really long running show called Running Man, funny enough. That show's really popular for people who watch Korean TV. And then another show I was watching, it just ended recently. The title in English is Delicious Rendezvous. And what I love about this show is the basic concept is that every episode they talk about a food ingredient that for various reasons is not selling very well. And as a way to help the people who do the farming or the fishing or the raising of the animals or whatever and the farm, they basically create recipes that you can follow at home that uses some of these ingredients to help encourage people to buy some of these food items. Like a lot, like the most common thing is there's like low demand for like certain vegetables, and now farmers are having to sell them at like less than $1 for 2 pounds of like, say, carrots, for example. And you're hearing like, wow, these people are really in a lot of serious trouble. Like they have to sell like 2 pounds of vegetables, and you're barely making the equivalent of $1 or $2 US for all that. I mean, it's like, wow, okay. So, it's great. They're doing this show to encourage people to support, local farmers. And you're also learning how to make delicious food at home whether it's for yourself, just by yourself, or you're making it for your family. It's great. I loved it. So yeah, that's basically what I've been watching lately. Okay, so before we close out, as usual, we have an email address where you can send us questions, comments, criticisms on how to improve our show. You can email us at threefatesdecide@gmail.com. It's the title of our podcast, all in one word, and the 3 is spelt out.
And you can also reach us on Instagram at Three Fates Decide. The 3 is spelled out. And feel free to send us DMs.
Let us know what you think. We love feedback.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us next time.
And see what we're going to talk about.
Because the 3 Fates decide.